Welcome to Holeman and Finch Public House. I'm Linton Hopkins here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're going to do some cooking with Coca-Cola. I enjoy drinking Coca-Cola, but I also enjoy cooking with it. We're going to start with a classic old Southern cake, which is a Coca-Cola cake, where we substitute some of the liquid and some of the sweetness with the Coca-Cola. Let's go ahead and get started. First thing we need to do is create a base of our fats and the Coca-Cola. That's going to be with what we have here, which is some melted butter, some oil, and we're going to pour about 8 ounces of Coca-Cola, actually right at 8 ounces of Coca-Cola right in here. And we're going to bring this up to a boil. When you bring it up to a boil, you sort of get rid of all that fizz, and that's not going to affect the cake. As we bring that to a boil, we're going to go ahead and get started here in the mixer. And one of the reasons I love this cake so much is when you read any old Southern cookbooks or junior league books or even Coca-Cola cookbooks, this recipe is in there. It's one of those sort of go-to kind of recipes. We're going to do some savory things with Coca-Cola as well, but this is just a old-timey classic and really is the best chocolate cake you've ever had. What we did there is we got our flour and our sugar going, and we're going to turn this on just nice and low. Right, because when you add this, a lot of times it's going to puff on up. And we're going to slowly drizzle in our Coca-Cola and the fat right in here. And we're just basically creating a sponge cake. And we're just adding it slow because we want the flour and the liquids to come together. And we have some other elements we're going to add in here. What makes this sort of so wonderfully Southern is we also have the addition of buttermilk and baking soda here. So we're going to add that right in there. The acid in the buttermilk is what activates the soda. We slowly add the buttermilk. We have our cocoa powder. We're going to add that in there. It's our chocolate element. Just a high-grade Dutch processed cocoa powder is what you want. And now we have our last two elements for the batter. We have our eggs and our vanilla. We're going to add our vanilla straight in. And we're going to add our eggs one at a time. Let that incorporate it, bring that up to full speed. And whip that up. One final burst, and we're done. Now it's a good loose batter, so don't worry about it being too thick. There's enough flour in there to set it up. Similar to the method behind a flourless chocolate cake, you're going to get a great light cake. We take our pans, nice and buttered, standard 8-inch cake rounds, and we're going to divide the batter in between the two. Our oven's at a preheated 325. Bake about 30 minutes. When investing in a cake pan, please get a nice thick pan. There we go. Take out some of the bubbles. Always beat it down a little. And this is going to go into our oven at 325. As I said, about 30 minutes. We're going to let our cakes cool, and then you're going to end up with this here. What we've done is we've taken the tops off. We have our 2 layers. The layers are puffed up like this, and we just take it down to smooth, so you have 2 layers like this. It's an absolute delicious, dense cake. You can use any type of icing, but we use a Coca-Cola icing on this. And to make it a perfectly flat, symmetrical cake, we lay that like this. Lay that over here. We're going to get our icing. This is a chocolate ganache, which is infused with Coca-Cola. Ganache being just cream and dark chocolate. And this, we substitute some of the cream with Coca-Cola. We're going to create our middle layer here. And it's very important with ganache icing that it's slightly warm. Otherwise, it'll tend to tear the cake. We're going to create our layer. It's also very important that the cake is nice and cool. Otherwise, it's going to run. We're going to take our other cake layer, being careful not to break it, but you see it's pretty firm. I'm going to just nestle that right on top. And you see the icing slowly coming out, which is what we want. Now here's the fun part, which is what's so great. Some people think icing a cake is so terrible, but with ganache, I mean, just look at that. Right over the top. We just want that to slowly fall. Isn't that one of the most beautiful sights? You can make this cake 2 days ahead. It's fine. I just let it naturally fall off like that because I just think it's so beautiful. And that's your finished cake.